My name is Eugene Plowden. I'm a second-degree black belt in American Freestyle Karate. I'm also a white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's me. In the martial arts when I was 5 years old. Around when I was 5 years old, I used to go to karate with my uncle, and he taught me. At that time, I was the only kid. Everyone else were older, teenagers, and in their 20s. And I got kind of bored because I was only 5. I wanted to play with my toys and stuff, so I stopped going. But then as I started getting a little bit older, I would look at my uncle's trophies. They were just growing and growing in my grandmother's living room, and he had so many of them. I thought they were real cool, so I wanted some of my own. So I begged my dad and begged my mom and my uncle to teach me, get me into karate and to teach me, let me go to a school or something. So eventually my uncle opened up his school, and him and my dad, they taught me and my brother karate, and ever since 1988 I've been involved in the activity, whether I've been a competitor, a student, or an instructor, nonstop ever since then. I've been drawing since I was a little kid. That was my activity growing up. Besides karate and besides martial arts, I would sit and just draw for hours when I was in elementary school, and I always liked cartoons. So from Yogi Bear to the Smurfs to Alvin and the Chipmunks to Garfield, Heathcliff, Peanuts. I liked all of that stuff. So I used to just sit and draw it all the time. My parents were a little strict, so during the school week, my brother and we weren't able to watch TV. So you have to find a way to entertain yourself. I mean, besides playing with your toys or playing video games, you can get a little bit bored. So what I would do, I would just sit and draw different cartoon characters, draw comic book characters. And I started getting really, really good at it. I would draw every day, all the time. And eventually I started creating my own comic strips and comic book characters. And I just came up with, my own way of entertaining myself. JumpKick is my comic strip that I created. It's based upon the relationships between students and their martial arts instructors. It also involves the relationship between a father and his son, mother-daughter, father and daughter, mother and son, the relationship between the faculty in this martial arts studio also amongst each other. Because it's all about relationships. I want to tell different stories about how these characters interact with each other, all the kids, and then the adults also. So, you're going to see different things where the kids are at school or at home outside playing together, or in their house having a talk with their parents. So a lot of different things that I've come across in my time in the martial arts. I just want to be able to tell some of these stories a little bit with a little twist, a little spin to them. So it's not going to be exactly like a situation that I actually been a part of or seen. I'm just putting my own little twist and spin on things. Webcomics have been around, I guess, since the mid-90s. They came on. Basically, it's very, very difficult to get into the newspapers now. And it's always been a little bit difficult. You have to draw about 25 or 30 strips. You would send them off to a person that works for a company called a syndicate. And then they would take your comic strip and then they would solicit it to the newspapers. And they would, you guys would split the cost. The newspaper decided to pay you I guess $5 a week or $6 a week, then you and the syndicate would split half of that. But you would have to get by the syndicate in order to get to the newspaper. But people are not really taking submissions because the newspapers now are starting to streak their comment section. So it's even harder now to get into the newspapers than it was before. So now in order to get your work out there, tell your stories and display your artwork, you can create the comic strip on your own and then post them on your own website. and you just have to find a way to draw traffic to your website to get people to read your story, read your comic strip, and hopefully it's something that they would do at the beginning of each morning. Whenever you're at work and to kill a couple minutes before you get started with your day at work, you want a little laugh, a little chuckle. You can go onto a website and take a read at some of these web comments. A lot of them are really, really good, and a lot of they're really interesting.